yeah, that's having a big impact because jazz is something that you can put into anything. It's that ingredient that you can put to food and it's always going to be even better. It's like you put jazz to anything and it's never going to be like, oh, no, that doesn't fit. It's like it's like salt, I guess, that you put and the flavor just, it's just better. Jazz, it gives me the freedom of say, this is what I want to say. And it could be wrong and it could be noisy or it could be beautiful, it could be whatever, but jazz allowed me to really just be myself. I was lucky in a sense that nobody ever told me you have to study this career because you got to feed yourself, or you know what people tell, you're going to be hungry if you study music. Like I never heard that kind of comment at home.
Welcome to the Stage Link podcast. Today we're talking with Juan Ruiz about music. Born in Medellin, Colombia, Juan Ruiz has emerged as one of the most sought-after jazz musicians in the New York City's music scene, where he continues to delight audiences with his music and poetry as the leader of his band. He began his studies in Medellin, Colombia with Elizabeth Isaza at the Universidad de Antioquia. During this time, he was part of several music projects in the city, including the Antioquia Youth Symphony and the Symphonic Band of the Universidad de Antioquia as a clarinetist. In 2006, he was awarded a scholarship to continue his musical studies in Boston, where he studied composition and jazz performance on clarinet and saxophone at the Longy School of Music and Berklee College of Music. He studied under the tutelage of Ken Radnofsky, Greg Hopkins, Shannon Leclaire, John Morrison, and Ed Tomassi. Juan collaborates in commissioned work with Maestro Ken Radnofsky, professor at the New England Conservatory and the Wind Ensemble of New England Conservatory. His most recent compositions have been presented in Argentina, Colombia, Venezuela, Mexico, China, Germany, and the United States. A promoter of collaboration, Juan performs with different groups in New York City. He is the personal assistant of the 15-time Grammy winner Paquito de Rivera, composing, arranging, and performing a diverse repertoire during his concerts in New York and abroad. Juan has also worked as a producer for different projects, including artists such as Yo-Yo Ma, the New York Voices, Paquito de Rivera, and Chucho Valdez, among others. What an impressive bio, Juan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Anna. I'm happy to be here.
I'm very glad to be talking about music a little bit. It's one of my biggest passions, but I know so little.
Music is great. Yeah, art in general is great. It fits us with love and so many beautiful things.
So how do you end up deciding that you were in love with music and that you wanted to do it your life and your profession?
I guess I have nothing else to do. Basically, as a kid, I just loved to, just to be involved with things that to be entertained. Like I wasn't really looking for a path or anything. I was just love to be entertained and busy and yeah, somehow I got just very in love with music. So it's step by step, I was just more involved and more involved. And at some point I was like, oh my God, I think I'm already a musician. But it happened really organically, and it happened just by really enjoying my time and just like never put a pressure in it. But when I was a kid, I was obsessed with things. So every field that I was doing, like soccer or basketball or whatever, I was really into it and got really deep into it. So when I got into music, like at 11 years old, I guess the same thing happened. And then it's been my journey ever since.
I'm always curious on how musicians end up choosing their instrument.
Oh, that's a very funny story. I used to be, the first instrument I played was the percussion. So I wanted to be a percussionist. I used to love to play the congas and the Colombian percussion, the drum set. So when I was 13 years old, I auditioned to the university, and I went to the office where I get the applications, and I said I want to audition for percussion. They said no, there is no percussion, but you look like a clarinet player. And then she just wrote down clarinet, and I was, I guess, very shy, and so and as I said, like I wasn't really like strict of how I wanted to be, or I wanted to be this. I just wanted to waste my time somehow. So I said, well, okay, whatever. I don't care. I just want to spend my time. So yeah, I went to the audition, and then the audition, of course, there were people playing the clarinet. And they said, "Where's your clarinet?" It's like I never played clarinet ever before. And luckily, I got accepted. I still don't know why, but I got accepted into it was called the preparatory studies of the university. So in the morning, I used to go to the high school, and in the afternoon, I used to go to the university. And the program, I think it was free or very, very cheap. So, I just like to do it. And then just little by little, people start paying me to play the clarinet. Then when you get paid, you get attached to things. It's like leaving a job. It's hard because you get paid, right? So I bought my first pair of shoes, and I bought this and I bought that, and I was just so happy making money with my clarinet. And still this is happening, so I still cannot get rid of it.
You must have had a lot of support from the people around you, like school, your parents, your family. I don't know, that enable you to get there.
That's that's I guess another story, but just to make it short, my grandparents were very supportive, in a sense that if I was doing something that I loved, they were happy. There was not a lot of economical support, but mentally, my grandparents were very supportive, and they always taught me that you have to do what you like to do. So if you're enjoying it, that's what you have to do. So I was lucky in a sense that nobody ever told me you have to study this career because you gotta feed yourself, or what people tell you're gonna be hungry if you study music. Like I never heard that kind of comment at home. And my grandmother always told me, like, yeah, if you do what you like, that's what you have to do. And I just keep that in my mind always, because especially music, you tend to go in different ways because music could be hard. So I guess that's all the support you'll need. Somebody who tells you that you have to do what you love to do. Because so many people advise you so many things. And in my life, I encounter people that advise me this and that, and this is what you have to do, and this is the best. And I always value all the comments that come from people, especially from people that I value. But I ended up always doing what I want. And I always choose my grandmother advice. If you like it, just do it. You'll be fine. It's been
It's worked out so far.
so far. It's been working out, I think, pretty well. So I'm happy.
Nice. And why jazz from all the genres of music?
I don't know. Somebody a few days ago asked me the same thing because I come from a town in near Medellin where you won't listen to jazz. I mean, it's like where do you get jazz from? It's not like you were exposed to anything like that. So I have no idea. At some point, I started listening to Michel Camilo, Chucho, Paquito, Charlie Parker, Beo Valdez, Sonny Stitt, and Dizzy Gillespie was also one of my favorite ones. I fell in love with the music, with the freedom of the jazz, and also what it represents. It represents freedom. It represents um, democracy. It represents a style of music that is it comes from your heart. You express what you are, and with no every type of music you can do that. When you play, let's say Mozart, you got to play the notes that he wrote, and he wrote something very specific, which I love to play too. I love to play Mozart. But jazz, it gives me the freedom of say, this is what I want to say, and it could be wrong, and it could be, you know, noisy, or it could be beautiful, it could be whatever. But jazz allowed me to really just be myself. And it's hard. Like Miles Davis used to say, man, it takes a long time to be yourself. So it's a lot of people think that jazz is just play whatever you want, and I just totally disagree. You gotta, it's like to find yourself. It's extremely hard, especially because we are already ourselves. So you're finding what you already are. So I don't know. It could be tricky, but it's a beautiful journey to study the jazz, to find your voice, or to accept your voice. Because I think some people tell you to find your voice, and I think personally you already have a voice. It's just more that you accept it, and you're, how do you say that, you work on it, so you polish it to make it better, so you can communicate. Like as kids, we learn more words and more words and more words. I think jazz is that way. You just gotta learn more and more and more and more to be able to express whatever you want. The less you have a vocabulary to express, it's like when you learn a new language. Like you want to say this, but you don't know how. So I think jazz is that journey of learning, that every time you can express more what you really want to say. So yeah, that's what I think. I love jazz.
And then, of course, Latin jazz was very uh came natural completely, even though jazz was already natural on you. And then
I guess Latin jazz for me, it's like our accents. It's like we learn to speak in English, and I don't know what age you learn. I learned when I was 21, and it's hard to get rid of your accent. So
right.
when you play jazz, I feel like the same thing happened to us. You play jazz with an accent, and my accent could be Latin jazz. So it's that voice that you already have, but you cannot get rid of it. The more I try to sound American, more like those guys, the more my accent comes out. So yeah, Latin jazz is, for me, is that accent that comes from me. That those drum sets, those tumbaos, those mountains, those things that maybe I have and that other ones don't have. Maybe, I don't know, but I call it, it's just the accent.
I love it. I think you just mentioned you never got rid completely of those drums you want to play, right? And those percussions that they're
No,
still in the back of your head. They make part of your culture. They're very strong and present in Latin cultures in general, I think.
I still have drumsticks that I practice some. Yeah, because I still dream to be a drummer one day.
Well, you keep following your grandma's advice, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. One day when I have a house, I'll buy a drum set and practice.
I mean, I used to live with a drummer. So doable.
Oh,
But
okay. It
the
was
the the little ones that are electric, and you can I hear they're very hard to play, but you know, the people around you can live with one of those drums, I guess.
yeah.
Young kids. You've also done production work, and you've done some songwriting and poetry.
Yeah. I always done the poetry things, always. But only until last year I decided to like bring it out in a concert to see what happened, and it was very nice. It was beautiful. Like I discovered that, especially with poetry, I think you lose a little bit more your ego, which I really like that, because in music you still, it's like this piece is by Mozart and it's always gonna be by Mozart. So it's like this piece is by Juan and it's gonna be my piece. So it's always gonna have my name. Um, but with poetry, I think you lose that when you compose a poetry, you write something. Uh, People get it belongs to people. I feel it belongs to the other person who takes that poetry and dedicate it to their partners. And I found that beautiful because some people did that, and some of my lines, I guess, they dedicated to others, and I was like in shock because now those words belong to them. They can say those words to that person, and they don't have to say my name. And even it's better because they shouldn't say my name, or they must not say my name, because then it will damage all the romantic things. It's like the same thing when I dedicate a poetry by um I don't know, Dulce Maria Loinaz from Cuba, that I just say those words and I dedicate it to that person. But then I don't say, well, that was composed by somebody else. I just say it like I mean it. So I discovered that on poetry, which has been a journey. And I usually write every day since I was a teenager. Like I try to write a lot, feelings and things. But now I'm more serious about it. So last year, my friend Camila, who is the pianist that I play with in my group, um, she composed a song with one of my poetries, and that was just like beautiful. So we're almost finishing the mix and mastering. We're editing a video to release it. So that's gonna be like the next thing that's gonna happen. Hopefully, more songs with poetry.
And now, a note from our sponsor. The StageLink podcast is proud to be sponsored by Clearcom. Clearcom is the leader in voice communications for theater and the performing arts. Call your cues with the simplicity and elegance of Clearcom Intercom solutions. You can find them at clearcom.com. Go check them out. Do you see your poetry tied to music, or like words can be a thing without the music and stand by themselves?
I think they can stand by themselves. Yeah, I'm starting to see it is in music. But I see them just by themselves. I just see them as an own thing. Not necessarily. My friend Camila was the one who surprised me. I'm like, wow, that works as a song too, and I was literally in shock. So yeah, I see it more as a separate thing, but now I'm starting to see it as a something together.
So it's interesting because I think, what from what you were saying, that writing and poetry are more freeing to you, and that's something you can share with others. But I
Hmm.
think that's the core of music these days as well. And I probably always and forever. I mean, if I think of the ninth, Beethoven's ninth, which is probably my favorite ever in life.
Me too.
I don't think Beethoven wrote it to keep it to himself, right? Yes, it was
No,
his quest to find, and I find Beethoven a very, very emotional composer, as in like he wears his feelings on his sleeves and on his music sheets. But he needed, like, it was something to be shared. Like, definitely.
of course. But what I mean is like that piece is gonna have Beethoven's name. And one of the first things that you're going to ask is, who composed that? In any song, who's that song? You love that song, it belongs to you too, but it's who composed it. It's never going to be totally yours. Even if you make a version of it. Oh, I made a version of this, of Beethoven. It belongs to it. It's always going to belong to Beethoven. But poetry can belong to anybody. You can delete the author, and you can steal those words, but you cannot steal a song. Like that is gonna belong to the composer, and it's literally. I mean, get maybe the poetry too, but you can get away with it maybe a little bit easier. With music, is like, oh my god, it's Beethoven. It's Beethoven. You hear that, and it's so strong that you always say Beethoven.
Okay, right. And especially the ninth, that it's so popular, and probably everyone on the planet, or most everyone in the Western world, at least has listened to it. But let's take, for example, El Bolero,
Hmm.
which is everywhere. Everywhere in popular music, you can find it so often, and in like movies. I don't think a whole lot of people that like would listen to it. I think you'd need some sort of musical training to say, "Oh, that's the bolero," and there's the bolero yet again, and then there's Ravel yet again. So I
Yeah.
don't know, but anyhow, I'm just playing devil advocate here. What about your work with Chucho Valdez and all your production work? What's that about? Also very exciting that you also work with Jojo Man, all the other Paquito
Yeah.
Herrera.
This first production I did was with Yo-Yo and Paquito. So in the pandemic, we all learned a lot of things that we didn't know we're gonna have to learn. So I learned the production part, mixing, putting together people, organizing things. So um, Paquito asked me to put together this thing, and Yo-Yo was gonna play. So I had to mix it, and that was the second mix I was doing in my life. So it was like a lot of pressure because I was mixing these two giants, and it was very nice. Especially Yo-Yo was very happy with the result. He sent me a text message, and I was so happy with the text message. So during the pandemic, we continued working with these artists and with Paquito. So there's a lot of videos on YouTube that I actually got to play to. So I was producing and playing this music. So the pandemic was literally just playing and playing and playing and playing. So then I was commissioned by Chucho to transcribe some of his music, and he started asking me to transcribe little things first. But then at some point, he's like, "Oh, I need all this music because we're celebrating Irakere." And I was like, "Oh my god!" But Irakere is something else. He asked me, for example, to transcribe something he was recording with Fonseca. Fonseca was doing a song with Chucho and Gilberto Santa Rosa. You know Gilberto, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I think they sent Chucho an audio, and Chucho asked me to make him delete shit. So he said, write it down, so I don't have to practice. I want to just go to the studio and play it. So I don't want to waste my time like listening and writing it down, preparing. Like I want to have a music sheet so I can just read it. So I was like, oh yeah, that was simple. It's more popular music, so it's easier. But when you get to transcribe the music from Irakere, it's something else because it's very hard music. Is They were innovators, so there's a lot of things you gotta listen to. You gotta pay attention, and I guess you gotta have some knowledge to get to the core of that music, harmonically, melodically, rhythmically. So it was a big challenge, and he gave me like 2 weeks to do like 10 songs. And I was like, oh my God. So anyway, it was a very difficult job. And then we check it together. We revise everything together, and I just learned so much from him. Um, and then in February they did the concert celebrating the 50 years of Irakere. So we had Paquito was there, Arturo Sandoval was there, Chucho, and then the young band that is Irakere right now. So I was in the production team of that. So it was something extremely beautiful, and I can say this is one of the most beautiful jobs I ever done in music because I admired, especially the three of them. Chucho, Paquito, and Arturo were like mentors for me when I was listening to all their CDs as a teenager. Um, I was used to listen to each one separately, but also Irakere with them together. So yeah, working with him it's been beautiful.
Could you explain for everyone that's listening that doesn't have a background in Latin music, for example, or Cuban music, what's the importance and what makes them so special, both as individuals, but also now that you're talking about Irakere?
So I think for them, I mean, it's hard. I think they're alive, so they can speak a lot by themselves of their music and the innovations. But what I've learned from that is something they tell me, like they were not trying to innovate. They were trying to live. They were trying to tour. So I think playing jazz at that moment in Cuba was where they were not allowed to play jazz, and they wanted to play jazz. I mean, they were in love with jazz, and I think at some point it was even illegal. They could. I think Arturo Sandoval went to jail because of playing jazz or listening to jazz. I'm not sure. So they had to put all the drum sets in the front to to like play the Cuban music, and putting all those things, and then in the back playing jazz and other influence from American music got to this innovation. So they were when you mix those things, you never know what's going to happen. So they create this amazing sound that is that jazz with all the Cuban music, and I think we're doing it a lot. We're doing it now with all the Latin American music. I mean, I do it with Colombian rhythms. Piazzolla was influenced a lot by jazz, even that he said he was not. Uh, Peruvian music is also now very influenced. Brazilian music is extremely influenced by jazz. Um, and all Latin American countries, I think a lot of them are mixing their music with jazz. So yeah, that's having a big impact because jazz is something that you can put into anything. It's that ingredient that you can put to food, and it's always going to be even better. It's like you put jazz to anything, and it's never going to be like, oh no, that doesn't fit. It's like it's like salt, I guess. That you put and the flavor just it's just better if you put the right amount, I guess. But Latin jazz is the thing. Like Latin jazz for me, it's all those rhythms from Latin America that have the influence of jazz, and then something comes out of it, and then you never know what it's going to be, and it's always beautiful.
I love it. And you made me think of this jazz influence, which I think it's a little interesting because it might be my lack of knowledge, but I feel like it's something that's fairly recent in the past, maybe 20 or so years. And I see it being a loop of the jazz influence and Latin music, and then back to jazz and to influence back like the entire continent, let's say. But it also made me think, as you were speaking, on the influence, for example, rock had in the 80s and 90s and creating all the Latin rock. And I don't think Latin rock fits back as much as Latin jazz is fitting today.
No, I think. Well, I'm not sure. The history of rock, I won't say anything. I really don't know anything about it. I like, but I don't know anything about it. But with Latin jazz, I think it was Dizzy Gillespie in 40s in the 50s when he met with Chano Pozo. And I think Chano didn't know how to even speak in English, but they got to. He used to play the congas and all the Cuban percussion. So I think they got together. So I think Dizzy was one of them who started the Latin jazz movement. Then when Chucho and Paquito and when they came, when they even started even more. But I think it was Dizzy Gillespie, one of the first who start combining the Latin rhythms with jazz. He was very curious about it, and he used to go to Cuba, and he was just like trying to mix those things. So I think he was the one who started that project.
That's fun. If you ever have a teacher, actually, you should probably come on and teach a Latin jazz history workshop or something.
I love to. I
Yeah,
love
no.
and I think I've learned a lot with Paquito and with Chucho. I think that the stories and their minds, what I've learned from them it's just amazing. Um, because they're real innovators, and they open the path for many of us, that that have that, how do you say, uh, that have that desire to continue, or not even the desire, we just have it.
How do you end up playing with them or for them?
When I did my first CD, 2017, I sent a copy to Paquito, but it was funny because his sister added me on Facebook, and she invited me to little parties they used to do here in New Jersey. So I came once to one of them, and she hired me to play in her little, place where she used to sell food, and it was a beautiful place next to the Hudson River. And then Paquito came and played with us. So he played a whole set with us. It was beautiful. And yeah, and then he hired me to work with him and to play, invite me to play in a few occasions. So yeah, it just happened naturally.
But you did take a step of, like sending your music out and sharing it and, hey,
Yeah,
I want you to listen to my work.
yeah, and he used to. I mean, he commented on my Facebook before, so I think he had heard my music before that, because I had a few comments before that on my Facebook page that he did commenting about my music and my playing. So um, yeah, I guess it was like a little by little thing that just little by little until it happened.
Did you ever imagine you would end up playing with them?
No, no, I was, once somebody told me once, your dream came true, and I said, no, you're wrong. I say I never dream with that. You dream with your heroes, and especially me, I just dream with meeting him and have a picture with him. It's like, I hope I can have a picture with him, and I just did that in 2007 when I came to the States in 2006, and few months after, it was, I think it was February 2007. I'm not sure. It was some point in 2007. I went to his concert. I met him afterwards, and I asked him for a picture, and that was my dream. Like, so yeah. So playing with him was beyond, and meeting them was beyond my dreams. I guess my dream is been more like playing my own music anywhere, and have an impact with people with my own music. So that was a plus. That was just, life. Life added me a few things here and there that I'm very grateful for it.
Nice. But your dream did come true though when you took that picture.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I said that dream is gonna happen one day. So yeah, that happened too many years ago. But yeah, playing with all of them it's been nice.
And then you're working on your other dream, right? Making it come true.
Of course, and now every day, every single day, I'm working on my dream. I think about it every day. So, you know, everything happens at the exact time, at the right time, the right moment.
What would you say is your favorite thing about your work?
I think my favorite thing is that I have a purpose. I was listening to I like a lot of philosophy, and I think it was Kafka who said that life didn't have any sense. There was no meaning to life. And some of his students, one of his students asked him, how do you say that? How do you? And then he went to explain, like, you have to give meaning to life, because life doesn't have a meaning. And then I was like, that's totally true, because especially now, even after the pandemic, I see a lot of people who have no meaning. The meaning of a lot of people is just um, create dopamine, and just like have pleasure. But that's just so uh, the opposite of having a meaning, because you don't have really anything to work on. Just looking for those moments of spark, and then you're depressed or you're just down again. So for me, just having a life purpose and being able to like touch people with my music and having that dream and that thing to work on every single day. It's just something that I'm very, very grateful, and I wish everybody will have that, because I think every time I see people with a meaning, purpose of life, um, it could be a family, it could be your job, it could be whatever. But when I see that kind of thing, I see happy people. I see happy people, even to the rough times of life, they're happy. And when they're happy, they don't bother anybody. When you see people bothering others and always complaining, it's because they're not happy. They're not happy musicians too. There are people who just happen to make music, but they're not very happy, which is very ironic. But same thing, you gotta give life a meaning. Um, and I don't know. I'm very grateful for that.
Are there any challenges as a musician, a composer, or anything that you change about your job or the industry?
Oh yeah, many. They're everyday challenges. Everyday challenges. I mean, life is a challenge. I mean, you gotta survive. So yeah, I mean, yeah, life, like that's the. I think that's why you have a purpose, because you pass those challenges. I was listening to something very funny about Charlie Garcia, and he was saying this story of a guy who was this guru. How where is this success? And he say he's over there. And he went over there and he got hit, and then he got all these people like hitting him, and then he came back upset. He's like, where is the way to success? He says, it's over there. He went again, and and then the same thing, just people just like smash him and then everything. And then he came back really upset and said, what's going on, man? And he said, well, after that, there is success. So I believe that, because you find just so many challenges in your life. It could be family challenges, it could be your work, it could be people who are so envy of you, which that is a lot. um, you find people who only think there's one way in life, so they make you believe you gotta do it this way, uh, and if not, they're upset. So you find so many things, and I just discovered there's so many ways, there's so many pathways that you can go. I mean, there's the musicians who travel around the world and he's happy doing it. There's a musician who's composing in his room and he's happy about it. There's the musician who is teaching full time and he's happy about it. There's the musician who is an engineer and he's happy about it, not because you're traveling and not because you're an engineer and not because you're there. That's the only way to be happy. It's like there's so many ways to be happy in the music business. Um, Things to change with it, yeah, so many. The first thing, it could be that like they pay us better. Uh, people think that your job is easy, or I don't know, or that when you're starting you gotta get paid less. But yeah, I will change the payment. I wish people were more, um, I don't know, more conscious about payment. And sometimes I don't know what they think. And some people have so much money and they don't want to pay for their services. So yeah, well, that's one thing I'll change. They should pay us better.
I
Um,
agree.
but you cannot live life complaining about it. So um, I will say I'll just be grateful the fact that I'm just doing music. Money will come. Money will come at some point. I believe in that.
Money will come. Well, I'm very grateful for you sharing your stories with us and sharing all this knowledge. It's fascinating. I definitely want to learn more, listen to more music.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for allowing me this space to share about my music and my story. Um, I hope we have more musical stories in the world.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.